I think one of the first things we need to do is kind of explain like where we are geographically to kind of understand the ecosystem around us. So we are in the floodplain of the Colorado River, which means it's a alluvial river floodplain soil. Central Texas, and I guess we're not necessarily a whole lot of them on this property, but it's basically post oak, hackberry, elm, savanna style ecosystem that we're surrounded by. So a lot of the trees that I just mentioned we have surrounding us. You know, another one we have is, and what I'm going to just do is identify some of the trees within sight. So we've got a gum tree, which is it's a bird berry provider, big time. Good strong wood.
Is that the Bumelia?
Gum Bumelia.
And is post oak a tree, or are you saying post oak as an after oak? Like
Post oak is a type of oak tree,
okay.
And it's the dominant oak tree here. Yeah, so it's a dominant hardwood.
Okay.
That's in.
What about 8 million different species of oak?
Yeah, and so in this area you'll find Shumard red oaks, and you'll find the Texas red oak, and you'll find live oaks occasionally. But yeah, post oaks is mainly what you see when you're driving down 969 and you see the big oak tree. But yeah, so the next one we have is a fruit-producing native that we have is the persimmon. Persimmon is a dioecious tree, so there's male and female. You'll see their green fruit turning into black right as we go into to fall, and you'll see it in raccoon poop everywhere, and you'll see it all over the place. So it's a big wildlife food provider, totally edible to people too. The Texas persimmon you can use as an indicator most of the time to let you know whether or not your land is good for the persimmons in general. So if you have a band of clay that's dense in persimmons, or the Texas persimmons, you could probably grow the Asian or Eastern persimmons in it. Some of the other, and what's really left on the hillside is just persimmon and hackberry. And so hackberry is what y'all are standing underneath right here. It's a short-lived tree, 60 to 80 years, and then it usually falls to a root disease called charcoal root rot. So it is definitely a native pioneer tree. You know, they're weedy. They pop up all over the place. The birds carry them. They'll bring them to you for free. There's never any reason to plant them. But you know, if you're trying to revegetate an area, it's a good canopy tree to lean on first. It grows really fast, and you know the birds will eat it all up. Goats graze it too, right? So it's a good free, easy one. Some of the other trees that I noticed up the hill is there's soapberries on the top of the hill, which is a nice, useful plant. As its name indicates, you can use it to make soap.
American elm or cedar elm?
Cedar elm. Cedar elm would be the next one. And where's the closest cedar elm? A lot of the trees
that way.
A lot of the trees that we cut down, or that were dead up here, were cedar elms. There you go. There's the cedar elms up at the top right there. That's already losing its leaf.
Yeah.
It's already yellowing out up there. And Bill Mollison recommended it as a leaf litter tree, something that you could encourage to grow on the north side of your swales, to drop leaf litter into your swales, because the leaf litter decomposes really quickly and they're a mineral accumulator, like most of the quick growing native trees are. So that's what we have going on out there. One of the other things I wanted to do is kind of walk out into this fallow area of the garden and kind of show some of the families of plants that are coming up here naturally. And I think there's a lot to be said for being able to recognize the weeds that are growing on your property, to be able to figure out what annuals grow well or what perennials are going to grow well. So, right here, these guys are, you know, the common name for them can be whiteweed, but it's a solanaceous. You can see the little fruit even looks like a little tomato. Some of them will look like little eggplants. But you can use this guy as an indicator that peppers will probably grow well in this soil, that tomatoes will probably grow well in the soil, eggplants will probably grow well in the soil. And as you go out into the field, there's, as far as other families, anywhere you find grasses, you find an abundance of grass, vegetables, or your trade crop, corn, the grass family. These guys right here are the native buffalo gourd. This is the cucurbit family. So you find these guys out here, you know, melons and pumpkins will likely be a crop that you can grow. And you know, if you come out here, you notice there aren't any thistles. So artichokes probably aren't gonna be your best choice out here. There's not any, it doesn't look like there's a lot of native annual legumes either. So I would imagine beans and peas are a little bit harder to grow here. But yeah, I think that it's a valuable tool to start learning your plant ID, so you can come out into fields or in clients' locations or on farms or whatever and look around and see what wants to be there already. So, you know, I would say, you know, bindweed, if you see a lot of morning glory, sweet potatoes might be something that is going to do well out there. Because a lot of these families, not only are their blooms similar, their requirements in the soil can be similar also. So that's one thing to observe. This little guy right here,
what is it? It smells so good.
It's a euphorb, spurge is what people call it, and there's lots of different types of spurges. This is something you see people pulling all the time. I think it's like the least harmful of weeds you can have in the garden, and it's also a phosphorus accumulator. So leaving this in place as a ground cover, it gets to where it starts being cold, and then it drops all of its leaf litter right underneath it, and it's packed in phosphorus. So,
What did you call it?
it's a spurge.
Another common name is croton.
Croton, yeah.
And prairie tea.
Prairie tea.
Oh.
You can make a tea from the leaves. It's a very common, relaxing tea.
Cool. All right, so those are the annuals I noticed out here. Plant ID, very important. So pick up on that stuff.
What's this guy right here?
Excuse me. Bless you.
I see stinging nettle too.
Yeah, this is a mallow. Yeah. This is a mallow. So you know, there's some of our youthful plants that are in the mallow family are okra and the hibiscus. So this is just Indian mallow. It's got really pretty orange to yellowish leaves. So
Okra does really well here.
yeah, so there you go. There's a mallow. Okra does really well in Texas. So
Yeah.
I think you just got to plant it here.
Yeah.
But so there's pretty limited diversity in this field right now. Of course, it's the end of the summer, but like I said, you can come out and see in any field you go into before you till it. You can see what wants to grow there just by learning your families and fruit shapes and plant identification. Is that 10 minutes?
I wonder if they've tilled out here. Not quite.
I don't know.
I'm not
It's
sure about
nice and
right
flat.
here.
I was curious about the other side too, because there wasn't very much rock in it either. I feel like I didn't clean that one.
Everything was looking the same. They were marked Fuyu and stuff.
What did we bring?
We
them?
use the Asian persimmon.
Yeah,
Are they here?
There's one, isn't there?
I thought they were.
There's an American persimmon here.
Okay.
No Asian, so that needs to go up on our list.
Do you want me to do a tree planting demo or just kind of describe it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Are we ready to plant a tree, Linda? Have we got them where we want them?
Well, are we gonna bring in some more
Minerals.
persimmons or something? Like maybe yeah,
Persimmons
the
would be
pomegranate. I would say those are ready.
Okay. Be out back in the sun. We have a space shovel over here.
We do. Probably over yonder.
Space shuttle?
But so basically, gang,
That's a square one.
in the permaculture garden, we're supposed to have about 2/3. Hey, Jewel.
Hey.
About 2/3 cultivar. Well, for every 3 cultivars, you're supposed to have 1 farmer's tree. And a farmer's tree is a native leguminous nitrogen-fixing tree. It's deep-rooted. It's got a sugary bean pod. It fixes nitrogen. It's got light shade. It's a pioneering plant. It grows up, stabilizes the region around it. And then as your fruit trees come up, you can start pruning back your farmer's trees. And so on the berm, that's the primary spot. That's where the cultivars are going to go. Then we're going to put the farmer's trees uphill, above the swale. And so we'll have 1 line of drip irrigation running down the length of the berm, and then we'll tee off to the farmer's trees. And so not every plant in this garden is about what's for us. It's about what's for sustaining the ecosystem around it. Okay, now Zach's going to do a little...
dig the hole while you talk.
Okay. And so some of the trees that we've got, and we've got to get a few more. We've got a couple of pomegranates down there, a kefir pear, a couple of loquats. We've got over here, we've got mulberry yonder. We've got a couple of Celeste fig that are going in the shade. We need to get a couple of Santa Rosa and Methley plums. And I wanted us to get a couple of Asian persimmons. So now that's 4 trees. So when we're setting out our cages and spacing these plants, we need to leave at least 4, if not 5 holes, because we've only got 1 pair. So we might want to get another pair, 2 Asian persimmons and 2 plums.
The pears need a buddy to pollinate.
I don't think they need it as much as the plums, but
I got
yeah,
a pair
always,
recently. They sent
Okay.
a wild one along with it. So
a lot of plants need to cross-pollinate with other, like your pear needs another pear alongside it, or the plum needs another plum alongside of it. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to plant the trees, and then at the bottom of each tree we have a fungal mycorrhizal inoculant. So we want about 1/4 cup of this stuff at the bottom of each tree, touching the roots if we can. And then we'll broadcast a little bit on the surface to inoculate the surface of the ground. But we've also got soft rock phosphate, green sand that has potassium and magnesium in it. We've got agricultural lime.
Where's that at?
And we've got dispersol. The mycorrhizae, Taylor, it's over there. Or Zach, it's the far left in the back of the car there. And then we've got some organic fertilizer too. So then we'll plant the trees. We'll get the mycorrhizal inoculant in the bottom of the trees. Then we'll make a mix of the soft rock minerals, the rest of the mycorrhizal inoculant. We'll broadcast that out everywhere if we can. We can use it all up or not. Like, we don't need to use up all the sulfur. I got a big old heavy bag of sulfur. Ag lime can go out. It usually recommends 2,000 pounds per acre, whereas the soft rock phosphate's like 600 or 800 pounds per acre, so you can put all the lime out you want. And you're not going to make the soil more basic. You can try, but you won't. Not with 1 bag of lime, which is what the agricultural lime is actually calcium. Then we're going to put the cover crops out. So trees, soft rock minerals, and for cover crops we've got clover, we've got ryegrass, which is already out on the hillside now. We've got plants from the Apiaceae family, which is dill, parsley, and cilantro. We've got plants from the Brassicaceae family, which is radish, turnip, and mustard. And then we've got Austrian winter pea, and that's in the Leguminaceae family. That's what the pea family is the legumes. Okay, I think Zach's ready.
Okay, so planting in a berm is a little bit different than planting trees in native untilled soil. So normally whenever you plant a tree in the ground, if it's of decent size, you'd want to dig out a big hole, loosen the soil a minute, backfill it. This stuff's already loosened, thanks to all you guys digging the swale. So I literally would just dig the size of the pot that needs to go into the ground. You can use the pot you're going to plant to make sure that you're getting it at the right height. That your hole's wide enough. Once you got that going on, we're just gonna put this in because the soft rock minerals are.
That's all on top.
And it's gonna be top dressed.
That's the only thing that needs to go in the hole.
Yeah. So this stuff right here it's a organic fertilizer that's been inoculated with mycorrhizal fungi. Mycorrhizal fungi is a fungi that does a symbiotic connection to the tree, relationship with the tree, get available from the soil. So if there's unavailable phosphorus specifically, mycorrhizal fungi will create this specific relationship with this tree, and so that stuff's in here dry and dormant and ready to be exposed to root. So what you want is root contact. And so on a fresh transplanted tree, you're just gonna dust the bottom and the sides of the hole, dust the bottom, and then dust the sides. And a lot of times you'd want to break up that root ball, but these look really nice in their pots. There was no circling roots, they're just barely rooted to the outside, so I'm not going to disturb it at all. You can top dress with this stuff to existing trees. You just want to kind of rake back the mulch that's there or whatever, try to expose it to the bare soil, and then cover it back up with mulch or with fresh mulch or with compost to encourage the roots to come up to it. So that's it's been dusted, and then you want this grade either slightly below, so we're talking a 1/2 inch or so to make a little pool around it, or level with the grade. You do not want it above the grade, and you do not want it too low in the grade. That really depends on the species you're growing, on how affected they'll be by it. Loquats can be grown from stem cuttings, so as long as you're within a reasonable range, it's going to root out anyways from whatever point it makes soil contact with. So kind of loosen it a little bit and then just backfill around. And one thing I like to do is just build a little tiny berm circle around the outside, just kind of pat the clay, and that'll encourage water to sink down around the root ball rather than run off the top of the berm. and just enough to capture an inch or two of water. And then, do we have mulch too, Kirby Fry?
Green manure.
Oh, I see.
We've
Okay.
got coarse mulch over there.
So
that I'm
at
not really
at the base of each one, we can use the coarse mulch for this
Okay.
stuff, man.
Okay.
So I guess we'll do after we spread the cover crops and before we put on the cages and run the irrigation, we can take a wheelbarrow of that coarse mulch and put it around the base of each tree. But yeah, that's it. And you just kind of want to tamp it so it doesn't wash out when you go to water. That's it, and then soak her in.